All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm doing my follow-up session now with Saba Poursaeedi. Saba, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. The ups and downs of the parenting life and work and trying to balance the two. It's relentless. It's absolutely relentless. So, but yeah, I'm
Okay.
yeah
How,
happy to be here. Happy to
how,
be.
how many months is your little one now?
She is about 6 weeks old
Mm.
now. 6 weeks old.
Ah, lovely.
So yeah, getting her to bed between the hours of 2 and 3 in the morning
Mhm.
to give my wife a portion of sleep at the beginning of the day, and
Yeah.
then waiting until my son wakes up at 6 or 7 in the morning to take him to
Mm.
nursery. So yeah, so there you go. It's two kids is hard.
Yes,
It is hard.
definitely is. All right. So when it came to our last interaction, we did the interview. I typed you as the entrepreneur, the logical, intuitive extrovert. Have you had any further thoughts on that
Lo-
typing?
Loads of thoughts about that. It was very interesting to hear you talk about it and for you to articulate,
Hmm.
because a lot of it I basically all of it I agree with. There was a lot of things that you hit on that I hadn't really been kind of consciously myself that I did. I just thought this was my way of being and all the rest of
Hmm.
it. And I think it kind of it brought to like the front of my mind a like maybe in like an existential crisis that I've always had at the back of it,
Hmm.
which was the overall thing affecting my career is I'm always thinking, why have I been working for 10 years and I'm still stuck on the first rung in the employment ladder, and I just go from one to the next to the next to the next, and why can't I get up?
Hmm.
Why can't I get higher up the food chain? And it's one of the things that like constantly frustrates me, because in every role I'm in, master the role very quickly and effectively, make lots of good suggestions, lots of good ideas, and within sort of like 6 to 12 months get completely despondent with the whole thing and end up going into sort of like almost like a depressive cycle, thinking I'm just not good at this or anything. um, and it's one of those things like I did a lot of looking into the personality profile because I'm job searching at the moment, and I thought, what jobs are good for this kind of
Yeah.
personality profile, and it seems like it's like, yeah, CEO, best financial earners ever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was just like, but where do they start?
Mm.
Where do they start? Where do they find the first first few steps into this path? And I think the problem that I have is I've always been so monumentally distracted by politics, that my heart really is in that and actually building some good change. But also, having jumped around in recruitment and stuff like that, I've never developed any tangible skill sets. Anything that I could say, yes, I am a graphic designer or an accountant or an engineer or something like that. So yeah, I'm turning 36, at the end of the month. And it's just
Yeah.
like, I'm doing the same stuff I was doing when I was 21.
Right.
It's infuriating. It's
Yeah.
infuriating.
You're stuck in the rut, and it sounds to me like what's gotten to you to where you are now
Yeah,
is not what is going to get you to further levels up.
absolutely
Yeah.
not.
And it sounds to me you've almost got you're at that sort of journey where you've got two paths really ahead of you. Sure, there's also the political path, but that's dependent on more than just what you can do. You can try your absolute best, and you won't
Yeah,
necessarily get elected. Like there's lots of things outside of our power for that sort of thing.
yeah,
But in terms of your career, the two paths are one, making being employed work for you, which at the moment is not working for you, or it's, I think, doing the thing which this type would most enjoy doing, which is taking their careers into their own hands, managing their own destiny, essentially, and not being subject to the whims and fancies of their particular employer, who may or may not like them.
yeah,
Um, the thing is about LIEs, they don't easily climb up hierarchies unless it's purely to do with competence and capability and tangible results. If it's not, if there's a political element in there, they are less likely to be able to rise up.
Absolutely.
First of all, because one, they resent that having to even fight that kind of competition, but also because their intensity, their desire to get on with actually solving things, that can often make it harder for people around them to relax around them. It can make them be deemed a threat by less competent but far more political people, and so they just don't end up rising up. And so the larger organization, particularly one which isn't heavily private sector, is perhaps the one where these types will end up being, well, stranded.
Yeah, or ousted, as I found.
Yes, or ousted.
In my current...
and they're very oustable.
Yeah,
very oustable.
yeah.
Because again, they're out of their areas of value, the things they actually feel are important. The least strong area is maintaining those really close relationships, knowing who will I be able to trust in these sorts of situations to have my back. And then they have to collect the data over time to really know that. So in those situations, that's what you need. You need very close allies, and this type isn't really secure in setting up these allyships.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. That makes a hell of a lot of sense. I mean, especially in the kind of the case that, I mean, like we touched on my friendship group before and all the rest of it, it's like, my motley crew of waifs and strays, that I have a laugh with. But, in terms of, the working world and all the rest of it, get along with everyone in work pretty famously, but I don't really tend to see them outside of it. I don't really tend to make the effort, to text them or to call them or, to do that sort of stuff. It's kind of, I'm not good at that at all.
Sure.
Far too family focused or, politically focused or anything like that. And in terms of like the intensity as well, that's something that I've always kind of been a little bit paranoid by. Almost like I don't know, I don't want to say like in an autistic sense of the word or whatever, but I always kind of think like, am I not on that individual's wavelength? Am I alienating myself, my pushiness or something like that? I'm sure I am. I would love them to tell me, would that make the alienation one step worse? It would. And it's like I do like often at times want someone to say, am I just an absolute freak? Is it am I doing it all completely am I doing it all completely wrong? I don't know, but maybe it's just I have a blind spot there. Clearly,
Sure. So it's I think it's really either is about equipping yourself with the tools to play a game you're naturally disadvantaged in, or it's setting for yourself a different game to play where you're more naturally wired to win. That sounds to me to be those are being the two options. Of course, feasibility comes in the way in terms of whether you can set up a new game for yourself to win, if that is the preferable option. I guess what I would ask you is, what would you find most valuable to get out of this discussion? What would be a way in which you could make best use of me as a resource?
I think knowing how to sort of retrain and reskill, but also knowing if I go back into paid employment, and to be honest, I need to go back into paid employment. I don't have a lot of options, knowing the right environment to work in, or knowing to accept what I can maybe put up with for a year before looking onto something else. you know, it's like to try and navigate it, because like you say, it's sort of like a kind of a crossroads between, you know, just doing the same old thing or taking my career into my own hands. I don't think I'm ready to take my career into my own hands, and I'll expand on that. I mean, through the election and all the rest of it, you know, I designed all of my own, you know, campaign materials and stuff like that on Canva, which I enjoyed greatly. I've exhibited them, you know, here, and, you know, I've got a couple of other examples, you know, made like train tickets and stuff like that, some good leaflets, which I thought were okay. But it's like, never used Canva before, downloaded it for free, had a bash of it, and, you know, I felt like I had a really good eye for what looked good or what was kind of eye-catching and what kind of delivered the message effectively. So I'm thinking, yeah, marketing might be a really good use of my skill set that would keep me creatively engaged. And then I was thinking, how do I get into that? Okay. And I was basically thinking, try and get some unpaid internships, look at a bunch of agencies and marketeers in like Harpenden, in Hemel Hempstead and Watford, and just, you know, do the old thing of going down there with a CV, with a little portfolio of work, and, you know, basically saying like, that I want to get into this. Can I do a week or two's, you know, work experience, and then build it up like that? That's what used to happen like 10, 15 years ago. That's something people could easily do, and you could definitely do it with, you know, smaller and medium-sized companies which might not be too interested, you know, in my political activities or whatever, and also the exposure would be quite low. Pitching that idea to my wife was not a good idea, you know, because she was, her exact words were, "We need more money now," you know. And it's one of those things that maybe, you know, I'm coming around to accepting the fact that this might be something that has to wait maybe a year, you know, while, you know, my daughter grows up, before my wife goes back to work and she's getting a full salary, and, you know, that the household is a little bit more stable, you know, rather than, I mean, like, so I can barely get time to do the party work at the moment.
Yeah.
And I might, and, you know, I've thought about it much more maturely than I have done before, and I'm probably going to have to step away from being county organizer for Hertfordshire. You know, obviously, if it's not something that I can get, you know, paid to do, you know, full time during working hours, which I would love, that would be my first port of call. So those are the options that, you know, I'm exploring at the moment. So loosely, it kind of looks like get a job at the Reform Party on a county organising basis, which I would be absolutely, I'd be great at that. I think I'd absolutely. I mean, like, you tell me. You
Look, you are certainly the person, in terms of the people sitting formally over me. You're the one I'm happiest with, in terms of, you know, you're very much hands off, but, you know, giving telling me what needs to be done manner. I really like that. So yes.
I like to think that
you
I'm
have a respect
when there's a problem. I like to think I'm hands-on when there's a problem, but then the advice I give is it's in and it's out. You know, we get in, we fix it, and then you know, leave people to it. You know, but that's what I would like to do. So that's option A. Option B, probably the most likely one, is trying to get another job, and I'll have to accept that it will be like a recruitment assistant or an HR assistant or a customer services role, or, you know, just some absolute, you know, run of the mill mid-20s salaried type deal.
Right.
And, you know, sit, you know, or B1 or B2 or whatever you want to call it, you know, retraining, you know, within marketing, you know, to try and get into that field. Because, I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, you know, yesterday, just talking to a neighbour, he's gone self-employed as an electrician, you know, and he's in the process of, you know, designing his own leaflet in his business cards. I was like, I will do that for free to build up a portfolio. do it all on Canva, show you some mock-ups, you have it, and then I use it to walk into another company and say, I've done this,
A pattern is also emerging from what you're telling me, which is applying cold. Right, going in cold, CV, maybe looking to retrain. It sounds very much to me like you're not making use of resources you currently have.
Okay.
A question I'd like to ask you, right? And just think about possibilities here, just possibilities. Did you actually have a paper and pen right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. When you get that, I'll ask you a question. And I want you to write down as many possibilities as possible.
Okay. All right. All right. Ready.
Okay. Interpret this as broadly as possible as well.
Okay.
What resources are possibly available to you in seeking and getting a new job? Interpret that broadly. What resources are possibly available to you in seeking and landing a new job?
Okay.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've
Right.
exhausted.
What's come up?
So my past work connections. So I've got about four of my old managers within the recruitment field who are all still in recruitment that I could talk to.
Yep.
I've got political contacts within the Reform Party, within the Ideas Matter sort of circuit that I could ask if they know of any jobs. Online job sites, Indeed, Reed, CV Library, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And some old contacts or old clients. Got about 3 or 5 that I could probably pick up the phone with anytime.
That's good. I think the key thing, given what we talked about in terms of your type, right? Going in to a new organization, not knowing the people there, even if you get the role, there's no guarantee that you won't have a repeat of what's happened before because of, say, political stuff getting in the way. Yeah. If you're in because of a connection, someone someone who knows you, that's already landed you your first ally, and they clearly are an ally from their actions because they've given you a role in that organization. So that gives you access to a certain amount of staying power. And something which another interpretation you could also apply to that question was in terms resources include your own skill sets. Now I know you've told me in this time you haven't really specialized as something, but you have acquired skill sets. And I think it's also the question here about how you package and present your skill sets in order to help you to land the job that you want. One, to just know for yourself, what are the most feasible jobs to go for? Which ones best match my skill sets? But then two, presenting that so, okay, I am answering the need you're communicating to me in that particular job ad.
Okay. So in terms of, the skill set that I have already, and like jobs I can walk into tomorrow would be another agency recruitment job.
Yeah.
I can pick up another agency recruitment job,
Sure.
easily. But the bar to entry is so low. But then again, I want to walk completely away from that. I don't want to do that anymore. I've
Sure.
done it for too long and had too many failures. And I know my heart's not in it. I know I don't have the drive to be, the top of that food chain.
Okay.
So in terms of like skill sets, I would say I'm excellent with verbal and written communication, able to get complex ideas across very quickly and effectively.
Yep.
I'm good at turning bad things into not so bad things.
Mm-hmm.
So quite good at empathizing with people that have been wronged by a certain process, explaining how the process works, and then, just good at winning people over to a more, positive, useful, frame of thinking. Good at analyzing data, always been good at analyzing data, but not in a sense that, I'm some Excel wizard. I can't do, regression analysis or,
Sure.
financial modeling or anything like that, which I know that role is quite heavily focused on. But in terms of, looking at a data set, I can tell you what the patterns are, and I could probably tell you what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Which I realize a lot of people can't actually do. But what else? Good presenter. Those I would probably say are my, like, my three sort of.
Right.
Oh, and good as well with like people management, leadership.
Yes. Okay. So one thing I think would be good for a next role for you is one where definitely you are managing people. I think you're taking responsibility, ideally end to end, for a project which you manage and work with, and you can see the forecasting for where that's going, how to solve that, how to communicate the need of the problem to other people around you. That sounds to me to be something which is matching skill set. The particular industry, those skill sets will transfer to a large number of different industries. And you say you want to walk away from recruitment, that's fine. Your skill sets can help you to go to other places, and they're very versatile. The key thing, right? You walk away from something into a world where anything is possible. And if anything is possible, you don't know where to start.
100%.
I think it's the idea that, let's play a game. Your move. Exactly. People freeze. When you have infinite possibilities, you freeze. You don't know which one to choose. There's no prioritization metric. So to narrow down those options, it needs to be, first of all, feasibility, right? You have a family to feed now, right? As your wife has clearly said to you. So you're great. So it's a job which makes good use of your skill sets so that you have the best chance of making a success out of it. That's the first thing. Second thing, that covers the shortfall, which is, the relationship side. Who are these people? Can I trust them? Might they just stab me in the back a few months down the line? I'll be back to square one again. Covers that, right? And also has the increased feasibility of getting you into that job in the first place. And I think that's where the first set of resources you talked about, right? Your relationships, your connections. I think you need to get good use of that to advise and inform of what kind of job to get. Through a relationship like that, with someone vouching for you, you might also be able to leapfrog those very initial entry level salaries. They could give you a higher paid job with the understanding it's just a little bit of training, literally like a week of training, and we'll have you doing this because I've spoken to the guy who knows you, and we know you got the skill sets to actually be able to do this, and it's directly transferable.
Yeah.
Now, to carve out that huge range of possibility into something we should actually build a plan around, I think it's about having the conversations with these key resources, these key relationships, to turn possibility into feasibility. Okay, what opportunities are there that you could potentially lead me through towards? At the same time, again, thinking about how you market your skill sets, because talking to this person, you need to close the gap with them so that they understand, okay, this is how Saba is going to be very, very useful in my organization or in my friend's organization or whatever else it is. And I think as long as you have those conversations with that in mind, that I think should maximize the chance of you getting somewhere that is financially rewarding and emotionally fulfilling in as little time as possible, so that you can get back to feeding your family directly, rather than relying on whatever comes out of all the degrees. There we go. So yes, any other questions, Sab? Anything else? Anything related to that even?
No, that I mean, like that all sounds like a pretty good say like method to kind of skipping out the rungs that I'll get frustrated with.
Yeah.
And getting more into like the driver's seat. I mean, in terms of this might sound like a really stupid question. I probably know the answer to it.
No such thing.
Having those conversations initially,
yeah,
right, is something that I don't really doing. I don't really like telling people, I need a job. Can you help me get a job? I can see myself doing it in a kind of like a pretty blunt, matter of fact way. I mean, do I need to be say, can we meet up for a coffee? Can we meet up for lunch? Let's have a catch up. I'll tell you about what's happening with me. What's happening with you, where are things, what's going on with where you are. I mean, is there any way to fit with what you're doing, sort of thing?
Okay. So what I'll say is this: different people like different things. Some people just want to be told straight, right? But to be told straight is one thing. To make it worth their time and interest is the next thing. And how are you making it worth their time and interest? If you go to them and say, oh, I want a job, then nothing else, why should they focus their time on finding you a job? What is the value you can bring? Which again comes to how are you packaging and talking about your areas of competence and capability. Once that is clear, they're going to be willing to find you whatever they can, because that in some way either helps them or some other contact which is important to them, which thereby helps them. In terms of the cushioning of the conversation, right? Having a coffee first, meeting, talking about something else first to warm it up. Some people really like that, and they don't like being asked directly, I need a job. It depends on the person. There's no 100% rule for that. Is the person someone who likes to be settled and eased into things? Or are they someone who just tell me straight off the bat, I don't want nonsense about cups of tea, just tell me what's going on, and I'll bang, 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 I'll get you what you need. Who are these people you're talking to? What are their temperaments in that respect?
Yeah. Okay. All right then. So play it for the audience, sort of thing. Okay.
Exactly. Directness and indirectness in conversation. This is very attached to types, by the way. So you would prefer, I'd imagine, the more direct, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Cup the coffee. Let's get to how I can help you and you can help me. Again, depends on the person.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Okay. All right then. So that's something I can work on. That's something I can easily do. just have lots of phone calls, and then
Yes.
just see they want to have a chat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And the idea is that's going to, you got this big block of marble, right? It has no form, no shape. Each conversation had to carve at that big block until you get a clear sculpture of what your plan looks like. That is what it's about. It's finding opportunities, how they line up. Some of the opportunities can help other opportunities. And you can spend some time just thinking, how does this lead to that? How does that lead to that? How does that connect together? What can I draw on? Right? You might have multiple small part-time jobs as opposed to one main employment. It's just what is feasible so that you know how to actually gain traction towards it.
Okay. All right then. So kind of like expands, what could work, sort of thing.
Yes. Expand refine what could work.
Okay.
If anything, this is you are gathering the possibilities first of all, right? But you're also refining them down, because really anything is possible. It is possible that through some sort of constitutional crisis you become the prime minister tomorrow. That's possible. It's not feasible, but it's possible. So we're moving from possibility now to feasibility, and that gives you something to work towards.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, that's very helpful. I just kind of want to get on with it now.
Are you all right answering a few questions from the audience? I think they're very they're curious to find out about you a bit.
Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely, go for it. Fire away.
All right, okay. So please, guys, ask questions. I've got a question not relevant to you, from Tommy, about being distracted all the time as an SCE and getting more things done. Well, I think it also leans back to what I was saying before. It's what's the focus? What's it about? What's your guiding mission? Right? Yeah, you can faff around with this, because you see problems, you just want to rush in and fix them. SCs, by the way, very similar to LIEs, Saba. They've got the same values. They're just a bit more present and in the moment, a bit more interpersonal, rather than strategic. But yeah, I think it's again having conversations to find out what that purpose is. What is the most important thing for you, so that other things will look like distractions. That's the key thing. Once it feels to you like this is a distraction, it's getting me away from what is important, then you can focus your will on getting that done.
I mean, like, focus is probably one of the worst things in the world for that, because you're just confronted by massive problems all the time. If you spend too much on Twitter, namely people's opinions, they're the biggest problem.
Yes. There are infinite problems. Yeah. What are the problems that you want to focus on? Okay, what else do we have here? Let's see. Any other questions? Does Saba like debating politics?
Love debating politics. I'm just going to be brutally honest with you, Jack. This could have been done at 3, but I was in the middle of a fierce debate on WhatsApp over integration and what it constitutes. Just like. But it's one of those ones where, like, I absolutely love this group of friends that I play Dungeons and Dragons with, because not of my political ilk at all, and I absolutely love it. Because it's too easy to get in your own political bubble. It's too easy to get in a political bubble. So I absolutely love debating politics.
Okay. Now, question: how do you deal with what you perceive as hostility, fights, or conflicts? Do you tend to want to leave them, or do you find yourself moving towards them?
Oh, absolutely opposite. Like head straight into conflicts. I mean, the way I see all the hostility for me is a manifestation of not understanding. When people don't understand things, an anger response is the easiest thing that gets triggered. I mean, like, I certainly find it myself. If I don't understand why something is happening, I do get angry about it. Before I joined the Reform Party, I was an incredibly angry person. I was an incredibly angry person. I mean, like, my wife kept encouraging me to see a therapist. It's something that I finally did when someone who I barely knew said, oh, maybe you should do this. If you're feeling burnt out at work and angry all the time, maybe you should do that. But part of me getting involved in the Reform Party, it made me feel less impotent. So that took the anger away. But also, rather than looking at all of these existential crises and not knowing what was going on, being in the Reform Party gave me an opportunity to discuss things more freely. I was able to see what other people's ideas were. And when I was kind of, grappling with problems like immigration, like national debt and all the rest of it, when you start discovering what the answers are, you can get very frustrated with the people that are making those decisions. But the fact that you understand the issue makes you less angry about it. So if someone is angry with me, I'm very sympathetic to the fact that they might not know me and they might not know what I'm about, and they do not understand the position that I'm coming from. And, I have a lot of patience, maybe too much patience, with people that are coming to me from the other side of the fence, because I will always, take the time to try and lay out my position as logically, as kind of factually, and not quite as dispassionately, but just try and make the case. Sometimes they're not gonna get it at first. Sometimes it's going to be too angry. There's too many things that they've heard. But for me, it's if I can do one thing that softens the hostility, then that for me, it's kind of worthwhile. I mean at one hustings, for example, like it's on YouTube somewhere, there's a hustings in Berkhamsted I did, and this woman was absolutely not quite effing and jeffing at me, but saying like I was a BSer and all the rest of it, and really like hysterical, and at the end of the debate I thought she was coming over to apologize, but no, she doubled down, and she was saying I was the worst human being she's ever met in her life. And the Green Party candidate just tapped me on the shoulder and said, like, Saba, she does this to everyone, she does this to everyone. She's done it to me, right? And that made me feel quite disappointed. Right, that made me feel quite disappointed, because I can deal with someone having a hostile reaction to what I'm saying, because I know that they're thinking about what I'm saying and it's an eliciting a response. But knowing that this person wasn't quite emotionally in control, and that this is just sort of like a trigger point where she gets distressed and she has outbursts, for me that was incredibly disappointing, because it's like, okay, so what I was saying was just wasted on her. It's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? She's not. She's never going to be at a stage where everything's fine. She can cope with the world. She needs a lot more help than I can give, and it's certainly the kind of help that you're not going to get from a political debate.
Yes. And the point is that therefore you have wasted time. You've put in time where you could have used that time elsewhere. But also that there are people in this world that you can't just have a reasonable discussion with. The limbic brain takes over and means that you can't have that kind of discussion, and it just becomes a circle. But also, at the same time, what other lessons you could have that you probably would have gotten from that?
I think from that, I think the lesson that I learned from that, I don't think I would have done anything differently, because it was a hustings. I was delivering this to everyone.
Sure.
But what I was quite happy with was that, and I see so many people doing this, and I really disagree with it. When they're met with hostility, the reaction is always to kind of shy away and apologize for upsetting the other person's feelings. This is something I never do. This is I never, ever, ever do. And if someone is upset, I never apologize for it, and I never try to placate it. If anything, I kind of like up the ante a little bit, and then just try and bring it down. And I've had these sort of like drunk conversations, with strangers and all the rest of it. People will tell me, Saba, just leave it. She does this or whatever, or he does this. And no, I'll just hold my ground, make my case, and more often than enough, the anger subsides. So yeah, I think what I learned from that is just don't take things personally, and it just kind of reinforced that lesson.
That's a good lesson. I think also, like, just on the case in the situation of apologizing, I think a good approach to apologizing is never apologize for the other person. Apologize for yourself.
Yeah.
So apologize when, after reflection on your actions, you feel it does not sit right with you what your actions were, and that you want to make clear to the other person that it doesn't sit right with you and that you would strive to do things differently. Whereas when people apologize for upsetting someone, they're apologizing for someone else's benefit, and that's not real. What's that for? I'm sorry that you were hurt. It's basically I'm sorry for your problem. Whereas it's anything, it's a declaration of sympathy dressed up as contrition. When really the value people derive from having someone apologize to them is them realizing the other person is on the same page as them and saying, yes, this is something now I need to work on and improve. Whereas what would normally happen in that sort of apologizing for the other person is, oh yeah, I still have these thoughts and everything else, but I'm going to try to come across differently to you so that you don't. So I move around your problems more effectively.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. I don't move around problems. I don't. I do move.
Yeah. All right. What else is there here? Another one from Fate Wind. Do you think learning typology like socionics can aid you with your political pursuits and your career?
110%. 110%. I mean, like, already from the 1 hour I think it was about an hour and a half last time, wasn't it? It's like already from those kind of conversations that I've had. As my what is it? Was it ENTJ? Is it E? Or So from that personality type, I'm a lot more conscious of things in the front of my mind that I was sort of paranoid about in the back of my mind. I always used to think, am I coming across too strong? Am I a bit too, in everyone's face? Now I know I probably am, right? I probably am, so it's going to help me regulate things. It's already helped me, going a bit more softly. And if I feel myself, being a bit too overbearing and all the rest of it, I mean, I had a meeting, last Sunday. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm doing nothing but complaining. I'm just, going through a lot of stress at the moment and all the rest of it. And I'm just trying to, communicate, what's going on the ground. It is so useful to of how people are different. We all know people are different, but we don't really know why or how. So yeah, it's something that I'm very interested in, looking into, further, seeing all the different types. How many different types are there?
There's 16.
16. Okay. That I didn't know. Right. And I think having maybe, even just a summary analysis of the different personality types that are out there, like the percentages that are likely to occur, it's really going to help me navigate a political landscape. Whereas before, everyone was all other, and it was also was always me versus the others that I do not understand, and I do not understand the way that they make their decisions or their thinking processes. Looking into this further, I think will certainly benefit, my political career, because it's incredibly hard trying to navigate a political career within a political party.
Yes.
If you don't understand the people around you, I mean, communicating it to the public is one thing, very bit easier because you just put out your stall and take it or leave it. But when you're trying to get on with colleagues in a political realm, it's incredibly difficult.
One thing I'll say in terms of percentages, we don't have that data, but what I would say is it's a reasonable assumption to make that there are different concentrations of different types in different sorts of industries.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And that then shapes the culture and shapes how it responds. So, for instance, there's a type which you're probably least likely to gel with because they're just so different to you. right? That type is one which is very much about comfort in the day-to-day. It's about people getting on and having sort of nice, wholesome day-to-day conversations. They tend to, when they learn things, find from their experiences a certain structure which they stick to, and don't like that having that rapidly change or having to assimilate new data and new information all the time. They don't like ambiguity, freaks them out. That sort of type, very nurturing, very lovely, very good with people, especially with children as well, looking after them. That type, you're going to get lots of them in the NHS.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
You are explaining a lot of the people that I butted heads with when I was a trade union rep.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Yeah, the kind of people that to give me an answer would explain the process.
Yes.
I was like, I know what the process is. Yeah. Those kind of people absolutely do infuriate me.
Yeah. They when they learn, it's through finite systems, and they eventually they know the system, and so that is their expertise. They know the system. Having to confront them with new facts stresses them out. They can't integrate those facts so quickly. They have to sort of work it through their bodies over time. So knowing that's there and that is a legitimate type, they're not wrong-headed, they're just different, is helpful, especially if you find yourself having to work with a large body that isn't private sector, where the main focus is on work-life balance and things being and it's more of a nurturing interpersonal field. Yeah, that's going to prevent headbutting.
Would have helped me in that WhatsApp conversation, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was just like not quite screaming, but just like saying, like, there is new data at hand. you are giving me a 2014 study.
Yeah.
Definitely would help, but also the kind of the homebodies and stuff, like people that like having discussions about cheese and wine and tea. Oh, that is a pet peeve of mine. It almost like I when I was in my 20s, I hated cheese because people would just talk about cheese. Right.
Yeah. It's when there is there's complexity to it. It's not just just tea. No. One tea is very different to another kind of tea. And the small nuances and making it better, how it's made, is it grown in the right soil? Is it pooed on by the right animal? All those sorts of things. And this type would actually probably find quite interesting and like to talk about. Whereas you'd be like, what is the point? Just put it, if it's nutrients and it's useful for my operation, put it in my mouth. I'll digest it. I'll get back to work.
Yeah, exactly. If you like it, eat it. If you don't.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, no, like those people really. I mean, like I can deal with like communists, fascists, whatever. Give me one of those. I don't care. I'll take them on. But like, no, not one of these people. I think these people really bring out the militant in me.
Okay, what else we got here? We got a typology question. Oh, there's two different typologies. Sometimes you get different. It's more from me than you. Can an SLE be an Enneagram type 9? Okay, Johnson, I'm not an Enneagram specialist, but what I will say is this: from what I know of type 9, it is very different. It's very far more submissive, far more conflict averse, which makes it almost the exact opposite of what you'd expect from an SLE. Which is what I think that's why you're asking the question. So the general rule is this: how would I approach this? Seek to understand what makes a type 9 a type 9. What is the key essence? What's the key factor that makes it what it is? And then you do the same for SLE, which I've been able to explain before in past videos. Is there a contradiction or is there not a contradiction? Sure, people can surprise you. You can find all sorts of strange combinations of things. But if the thematic essence of these two things contradict, then I would say no, most likely not. And from surface value, looking at that, no. So I'm not saying it definitely isn't, but find an example of where someone could technically be a type 9, but also be an SLE. Think, what are those realistic scenarios? All right, let's move on. And someone said Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks is this. I don't. I'm inclined to not think so. But yeah, more likely an 8 or something like that. But yeah, I'm not an Enneagram expert. Okay.
Is that the bald guy in the Young Turks?
That's that's the guy who runs it all.
Oh, is it? Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
He's SLE. That's the same type as Trump.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Henry VIII and Napoleon Bonaparte, big, assertive, tough figure, wants to win their arguments and be the boss in the room all the time.
Henry VIII is a fascinating figure.
Oh, yes, he is.
He's an absolutely fascinating figure.
Yep.
Yeah.
He is definitely. I'd love to do an analysis of Henry VIII at some point. Definitely would like to do that. The thing is, as he got older, he defaulted more and more to type.
Quite the hopeless romantic if you hear David Starkey talking about him.
Yes. Oh, yes, very much.
Yeah.
Very much. Very passionate, very dramatic. But as he grew older, he almost devolved. He almost defaulted to type. He got, his physical, before he was sort of raised as sort of Renaissance figure. He used to hang around Erasmus for a while. Erasmus was quite taken with him, actually. But later on, he had all the power he wanted. He just got sort of fat eating and getting paranoid about his relationships with his wives and just all that sort of stuff going on. The end was far more ignominious than his earlier years.
Do you think it's like the stress of the day-to-day humdrum of existing kind of like wore him down when there were no sort of real wars to get engaged with, do you reckon? Or?
I think this was someone who would have thrived in a more war-oriented time. Absolutely. Right. He had the same sort of personality profile as like Richard the Lionheart, right? So he would have been a very good warrior sort of king figure. I think although the only time actually went out and also had some sort of physical confrontation was against King Francis. The problem was King Francis was much the same, so he got landed on his bum. So yeah, there are difficulties there, but instead he inherited. Are you still there, Saba? Hello. What was I saying? Well, I was just saying that Henry VIII inherited the most. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, okay.
He disappeared.
I've received a phone call from my wife, which hijacked my phone's audio. So I don't know. I'm going to switch my mic on.
I also received a call from my wife.
Yeah, it's not coming through.
I declined
Can't
her.
hear you.
I'll talk to her later.
Audio.
All right. So you back? Well, good. Can you hear me? We can see you. It's fine, honestly. We can see you. We can hear you. Oh, he's back. He's gone. Okay.
We're back.
Okay, good. What I was saying about Henry VIII is that he inherited a very stable, secure kingdom because of the nature of his own birth, uniting the houses of York and Lancaster. He had stability, but that stability, I think, was actually a problem for him because it just enabled him just to get by, just lording over everyone. And that actually, in a way, reduced his potential. Still made him a fascinating figure, but in the way he was better, I think, soon after, because he wasn't actually a bit like Donald. Actually, he was the second son, and so he wasn't guaranteed he would inherit it all. It was going to go to Arthur. Arthur died. Same way Fred Trump Jr. also died, but later just became a pilot. Didn't want to, be the sort of ruthless businessman. Similar sort of idea. Donald or Henry inherits the kingdom, as it were. But yeah,
and the wife.
and the wife at the time. Yeah, Donald.
The wife.
I don't think Donald had. I don't think Donald I think Donald met Ivana separately. But,
No, yeah. Sorry, I was still talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that dynastic. The Trump had. Yeah, but I'm out to release a Trump video, which is why there's interesting parallels. But yeah, having that almost absolute power, and it was the closest thing to an absolutist monarchy in English history was Tudor England. But yeah, I think that towards the end he was just he's sort of old, he was sort of fat, he didn't have his same physical lifestyle anymore. It just he could have been I think he could have been a great king under tougher circumstances.
A man without a moment.
Yes, in a way. He had to become his own moment, basically. Anything else from people? I think those are all the questions. Do you have any other questions? Anything else I can help with, Sab, before we finish?
Like, I would certainly like to learn more about these kind of personality types, just for my interest, like the 16 ones that you mentioned. I mean, like, if you got like resources on this and stuff. Yeah.
I got freebie resources. It's my Explain Correctly series. Goes for every single one of the 16 types. I've got my course, but that's more for people who want to pay a premium. I got plenty of resources.
Awesome. Okay. Well,
I'll send you the freebies.
I'll have a look at the freebie.
All right.
But how much is the course?
300.
Okay.
Right. And it's all online. It's just watch for your own time. It's about a day's worth of me talking.
Okay.
About 24 hours of me talking, approximately.
Okay. Wow. That's okay. That brings the price per hour right down.
Yeah. It's good value. It's good value. I don't. Yeah.
Three days solid. 9 to 5 work, isn't it? So yeah. I mean, yeah. I can't do the maths right now.
That's right.
I'll work it out later. But yeah. Good.
All right. Well, Saba, thank you so much. Please tell your friends.
Yeah, I absolutely I will do. I'll share this on LinkedIn. I'm waiting for one thing to happen before I go live with anything. But that should be coming off in the next week or two. But yeah, I'll be sharing this on LinkedIn. But yeah, I think this has been amazingly useful to me. I'd recommend anyone to do it.
Thank you very much. Well, have a lovely rest of your day. Best of luck. My regards to your family. We'll speak soon.
Take care. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.